All right, today we're going to talk about the big bad boogeyman of homeschool, high school. Guys, it's really not something that you need to be scared of. I know that so many people tend to see homeschooling high school as something so very different from homeschooling in the early years. They think homeschooling in the early years, that's fine, but you're taking a big risk with homeschooling for high school because you could ruin your child's entire educational future. And I tend to feel more like if you're taking your child's education seriously from preschool onwards, there's no reason you would suddenly stop taking their education seriously once they enter 9th grade. So I do not see planning for homeschooling high school to be something worth stressing over, worth feeling very anxious over. But it's still something worth taking seriously, worth doing the work for, and is a great choice to make, I think, to homeschool during the high school years. Just to give you some background, I am a second-generation homeschooler myself. I graduated from homeschool before attending college, and my family has actually graduated quite a few kids from our family's homeschool. We have 6 kids who have gone all the way through their education homeschooled up until high school, and all of them have gone on to college with different degrees and different fields of variety between us, but that's all the route that we've taken. Our family also currently has our 7th student in high school, homeschool at the moment, and she'll be graduating and heading on to her own future educational career in a couple of years. So today I'm going to give you a step-by-step walkthrough through my idea of the process of no stress high school planning for homeschoolers. Number 1, be familiar with your state's graduation requirements. Now, this varies slightly by state, but in general, I would not expect it to be dramatically different from the types of subjects that you have been including in your homeschool thus far. I'm from Michigan, so I'm going to use the typical requirements for Michigan high school graduation for my example. So to graduate from high school in Michigan, you need 4 credits of English language arts. Odds are you probably already do English language arts in your homeschool. At the high school level, we would be expecting English to be including composition as well as literature studies. It wouldn't necessarily need to be including spelling at this point because probably a high schooler should know how to spell. And you would also definitely be including grammar intermixed with the composition and writing work that your child is doing. You will need 4 credits of math to graduate in Michigan, and yeah, you probably typically do math every year. Michigan requires 1 credit of PE or health, 3 credits of science, so that's not even one whole science course every year. We probably would do a high school science course every year, so we would probably end up with a little bit more credits than necessary in that subject. Also, 3 credits required of social studies. This is going to be your history or your civics, economics courses. And again, we would probably be doing one of those every year of high school as well. So it'd be easy to end up with more than 3. You're required to have 1 credit in some kind of art, whether it's a visual or performing arts, and 2 credits of a world language. So that's your Spanish courses or Mandarin Chinese or whatever foreign language that you have chosen. So in general, these types of credits, right, they do not sound that exotic or crazy or all that different from what you've probably been doing in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grades. There might just be a couple of little finicky requirements you might want to be aware of, like maybe doing PE wasn't on your radar for high school, or a health class, or maybe you completely forgot about art. So it can be good to check those requirements, and I also recommend checking the entry requirements of the colleges that you have in mind for your child, because sometimes the requirements that those colleges have might be slightly different, or sometimes those colleges might offer certain advantages or allow you to skip certain classes in college if you've already taken them in high school. For example, I took 5 credits of high school science. I took a lot of science. I took 2 advanced level courses in chemistry and physics, so I was able to completely skip the chemistry or physics requirement at my college. It was a requirement for most students, but when you had taken a certain number of chemistry and physics courses in high school, they exempted you from needing to take that requirement. So hey, I didn't have to take a class on that topic in college. Okay, step 2, once you know the general requirements, then sit down and chart out a plan for the courses you're going to use to meet those requirements. And I'm not saying that right now you need to know exactly what curriculum you're using, but you should probably know generally, are you going to be doing algebra, algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry? Are you going to be doing calculus, or do you want to do more of a applied math, business math, something of that sort? So that's what I mean by charting it out. You can do it with a pen and a piece of paper, or you could enter the 21st century and do it on the computer and create a Excel sheet or a document where you chart all this out. As you do this, I 100% recommend that you involve your child. And this is probably not just a one-day activity. This should be an ongoing activity, something that's kind of built gradually and over time. Involve your child's interests, both their strengths and their weaknesses. You do want to pay attention to both as you plan their courses, because you don't necessarily want to ignore a subject area just because it's a weakness of theirs. You might actually want to offer more support in that subject area. And for their strengths, you do want to give opportunities to lean into their strengths if those are areas that they are considering pursuing as a future career path. So, for example, between child number 6 and child number 7 in our homeschool, child number 6 showed early on in her high school years that she was very interested in pursuing a career in art. Now, we all know any type of career in the art field is a challenging career to pursue. She ended up choosing in college to do art education so that she would have a very kind of practical other options for her degree, because she'll graduate from college with a teaching license and with the ability to teach classes. But she is also having the opportunity to learn about art, to grow in her skill and her craft, and have opportunities to be published as an artist during this time. By contrast, child number 7 is not at all interested in art. It doesn't have passion for art. She is very interested in mathematics. She's toying with the idea of several different careers that involve statistics or math in different ways. She has, by contrast, chosen a career or a educational path that is much heavier in math and science credits. Beyond the core credits that are required, most colleges are probably going to want to see some level of electives being included. And electives are great opportunities for your child to explore different areas, whether they are interested in pursuing that skill and that topic for a long time or not. They don't have to. An elective is a half a year or a 1 year commitment to, hey, I'm going to explore something new. I enjoy elective classes very much, and I think they should definitely be something that we make use of. Third, what counts as a high school credit? This is something I see people stress out about a lot, and it is honestly something that does not stress me out at all. The technical definition of a high school credit in the US, the usual definition is something around 150 hours of classwork to get a 1 year credit in math or English language arts or whatever the subject is. It's typically 150 hours of classwork is what's counted. Now, nobody is looking in your window to see, oh, your child only spent 137 hours on their English language arts this year and is counting, exactly how long. Some kids get their work done faster than others. Some kids take way longer to do their work than others. So I wouldn't really get overly concerned about counting the hours day by day and the minutes spent on a certain topic. To me, I feel like use your common sense. If you have purchased an Algebra 2 curriculum, a math curriculum, and they have completed it, that's a credit right there. If you have purchased an advanced chemistry curriculum and they complete it, that's a credit. If you're using Sunlight, then you're getting credits for literature and for the social studies history aspect as well. So I would say it's kind of a common sense thing to me. Now, on the other side, on the flip side, don't say, well, my child cooks dinner for the family every evening and they sometimes watch bread dough rise because of the yeast and they watch meat browning, so I'm going to give them a chemistry credit for that. No, don't do that. High school chemistry involves a whole lot of math, a whole lot of algebra. You don't want your child to be going into college thinking that, okay, they have the good foundation in chemistry they need, only to realize that all they did was cooking. So do think about what ought to be required in these core classes. Use your common sense, but don't overthink it. So fourth step, once you have your general plan for their course credits, and then once your child is in high school and taking those classes, then fill out your transcript as you go. And a transcript is actually very simple. You can look at your high school transcript, you can look at your college transcript. They are very simple documents. There's not a lot of information actually on a transcript. You might opt to create separate documents that have course descriptions if you so desire, but the transcript itself is very simple. You're just going to have a listing of algebra and A- and the GPA and a calculation of the overall GPA for each year. They are simple documents, but just fill them out as you go. Keep your records as you go. Fifth, as you are looking forward to planning ahead for homeschool high school, don't forget to plan for extracurriculars. Now these can take three major forms. The first being more traditional extracurriculars such as sports, different sorts of teams and competitions. I did theater and performance competitions when I was in high school, and I did that in cooperation with a local school. A second form of extracurricular is work. And depending on where you are, different opportunities for work may be available to your students. For myself and my siblings, we grew up overseas, and because of the legal restrictions, obviously we are foreigners. We can't go and get a job at McDonald's, we can't go get a job at Starbucks. So we were much more limited in any opportunities to work during high school. But for people who are in more traditional circumstances where you can go out and get a job, I do highly recommend that high schoolers are having a job and getting that work experience. And homeschoolers get a lot more flexibility with their schedule than kids in a traditional school setting do. So working during high school can be a really awesome opportunity for them. The third avenue of extracurriculars is volunteering as well. Finding local community programs to volunteer with. And I personally tend to look for long-term volunteering opportunities versus one-week projects or short-term opportunities like that. Long-term volunteering opportunities where you can really make strong relationships and get yourself really deeply involved are great types of opportunities to look for the homeschooled high schooler. So you have those three options. They all have their different benefits. I mean, work, you get to make money. Volunteering, you're getting to really make a difference in your community. Sports, it's probably one of my least favorites, but we all have our biases. We all have our favorites in one direction or another. But through all of these extracurricular opportunities that you plan and that you keep an eye out for, one important thing is for your child to develop relationships with adults who are part of these volunteer programs, adults who are their bosses at their work, or who work with them as coaches on teams, and adults who can write them recommendation letters. Because something that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes for homeschooled students to get is those coveted recommendation letters that scholarship applications or college applications are going to want to see. Because a college that's friendly to homeschoolers might accept one recommendation letter from a parent because they understand, okay, this was a homeschooled child, so the parent is the person who knows their academics the best. However, they're probably also going to want to see recommendation letters from adults who are not related to the child as well. So that is something important to plan for. And you don't want to overdo it. I do not believe that the teen years need to be completely filled with go, go, go everywhere all at once. Granted, I am an introvert. I did have some extroverted siblings, and their high school years were very much filled with being outside the house and being a part of everything. So a lot will depend on the personality of your child, but I would recommend that even for those introverted children, finding something that they can consistently be involved in, whether that's volunteering or just being a part of some type of group and having some type of extracurricular is a great thing. It can help build their resume, build their experience, and be a part of applications for the future. Sixth thing to mention, as you plan for homeschool, make a plan for building your child's portfolio. Now, this will typically look like keeping samples of their work, which you probably do this to a greater or lesser extent, depending on your state's requirements. As usual, always follow your own local state's requirements. In general, if your state doesn't have requirements for a portfolio, like mine doesn't, I don't so much look toward keeping a math test or a science test where it's just solve these equations and show the answers. To me, that's not as interesting of an example of what a student can do. That's just kind of a factual thing. Here's the test, they got an A. But things that I do find very interesting to keep for portfolios are original work, original projects, writing assignments, or art projects for a child who's building an art portfolio, original research papers, or also documentation and evidence of projects, maybe community projects that they were involved in or that they led and spearheaded. And that could be newspaper articles about the project that they completed or whatever type of documentation you have. Those are types of things that can go in a portfolio. For organizing our portfolios, we just use Google Drive, whatever type of cloud storage you have a file for the best examples of their work and keep samples of that throughout their high school years. Because some scholarships are going to ask for, hey, can we have a research paper that they did during their high school years? Or hey, can we have an art project that they did? Or an example of a community project that they led? And then you will have those right there in the Google Drive. 8th point, when making your plan, do consider, especially for 11th and 12th grade, consider the option, if you have the option of dual enrollment or AP classes or taking community college, doing those little things that can kind of help you get a little bit ahead, help you get some college credits while you're still in high school. Those can be beneficial to those who have the opportunity to take those. Again, with my family being overseas, we just didn't have the options available to us. Really, at that time, online college is becoming more of an option, so there might be more distance learning options in the future, but for the time when me and my siblings were growing up, it just really didn't exist for us yet, so we did not take advantage of those options, but they do exist. Several of my siblings, once they graduated high school, did go on to community college. Most people will recommend that as a way to get a much cheaper deal on college. Take your first 2 years at a community college and finish up at a 4-year university. However, I do want to enter the caveat that I do recommend at least applying to 4-year universities as a freshman, straight out of high school, to see what kind of scholarship packages they offer you. Just to try and see, because a lot of 4-year universities do actually offer better financial aid packages, better scholarship packages to freshmen than they offer to incoming juniors. So actually, myself and one of my sisters went straight to a 4-year university. And we did that because both of us were offered very, very good academic scholarship packages that made it much cheaper for us to go straight to a 4-year university versus starting at a community college. So I'm not saying that's what will happen for you. I'm just saying don't automatically think the community college will be cheaper, especially if you have a child who is very good with academics. And my last point, as you look toward entering the high school homeschool years, is to have fun with it. And people here have fun with your education and think it means throw the textbooks out the window, and that's not what I mean. You can have a whole lot of fun with a textbook. You can have a whole lot of fun while solving a ridiculously complicated physics problem that requires so many equations and pages full of calculations. I distinctly remember having a lot of fun with that when I was in high school myself. High school is a rich season of learning together. It's a rich season of having your teenagers still at home, and it will fly by. So it is worth having fun with, and just keep that in mind, to have fun with these years, and that doesn't mean ignore the need for an education. I believe education itself, learning itself, is gloriously fun, and I hope that you and your high schooler get to experience that in the years ahead. All right, I'll be seeing you next time. If you do have any further questions or comments for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and I will try to respond to all of them. See you later. Bye.